Well, we are just 16 days out from the autumn equinox beginning, but it already feels like fall. We've got those cloudy skies rolling throughout pretty much all day long. We've got that crisp air and, of course, our cooler temperatures with a high today near 60 degrees, and that's just going to continue on as we get through the weekend going into the week. But with our weather headlines and our photo from Tracy Tri, I just love this picture. Bears are too cute to be a threat, in my opinion. But we do have multiple storms coming to impact Alaska. And the western part of Alaska and the Aleutians are going to be those areas to feel those effects the most. And that includes high winds and increased wave heights as well, and including rain as well. So with our upper level forecast, you can see this is really what's bringing in those storms to the western part of Alaska and the Aleutians. So we've got our low pressure system here. We've got this big trough bringing in this jet stream across the central part of the state, and that's pushing in towards the east. So as that starts to push in, we're going to start to see a shift in those sky conditions and the rain lingering for south central as well. So you really see as that moves, that jet of moisture is going to start to push in. So the interior is going to start to feel the effects of this going into tomorrow evening. And us, especially here in south central, we're already kind of feeling that a little bit with those cloudy skies and some rain moving on through. But even just looking here at our futurecast, you can see low pressure that I just showed you right there with that big old jet stream. That's moving into the west, bringing in lots of moisture just all across the state, even moving into southeast in the next couple of days. They're going to start to feel those effects in some areas, including the Brooks Range, are even going to see some snow and mixed precipitation. So frozen rain, sleet, snow, you're going to see it all. But I do want to point your attention down to this low pressure system here that's going to start to move in as we get into Monday. And as that starts to push in, that's going to bring a lot more rain and windy conditions to the Aleutians. So just looking at our expected rainfall statewide, you're really going to start to notice that that's really going to start to hit as we get closer to Monday into Sunday evening, Monday morning, and areas to the west are going to see a lot more of those impacts. But wind gusts are a big story for us, especially with those storm systems rolling in. We've got two low pressure systems kind of on each side of the Aleutian Islands. That's going to bring in a lot of wind, and that's why we're seeing all of that wind moving in. So you can already see some gusts up to 54 miles per hour, and those gusts are going to get up to 60. So we've already got gale force winds moving on in, and we do have a wind advisory issued across the Aleutians. So just make sure you're aware of that. If you're in the Aleutians, just take those precautions that you need, especially with all these storms starting to move your way. So for southeast Alaska, we're seeing those temperatures in the 60s, pretty normal for this season, but an increase in the sky conditions. And the interior is also seeing some more cloudy skies moving on in. You're going to start to see some of those showers moving in the next couple of days. For the northern slope, you're going to start to see a shift with that rain as well as that low pressure starts to move towards the northeast. And of course, over here for western Alaska, that's where we're seeing the bulk of the rain. Lots of rain moving on in, temperatures staying a little bit below normal, but then those windy conditions are really going to stay strong for the Aleutians, up to gusts of 50 miles an hour, and of course, it could get up to 60 as well. So make sure you're aware of that because those are gale force winds. Now for south central and the Kenai Peninsula, temperatures in the 50s and low 60s, and this is pretty much the same across the board for our region. We're seeing those rainy skies continuing, and of course, temperatures in the 50s and 60s, but a lot of rain on the way to Talkeetna. This is already a flooding area, so you need to be sure that you're monitoring that and being careful if you're in that area. But over here for Anchorage, we're seeing those temperatures near 60 with an increase in that rain moving on through, especially as we look at our 7-day forecast, just the chance of rain moving on in for our area. And then for Fairbanks, we're also seeing that some cloudy conditions moving on through, but then more of that rain on the way going into Monday. So, Michaela, going to be a little cloudy the next couple of days, but that's okay with me.
I wanted to talk about that photo that you had toward the beginning from Tracy Tri of the bear.
The bear.
I almost chose that photo to use later in the show for the story right before the end of the show. So that's a little teaser. You guys might want to stick around and see what animals I did choose to feature instead.
Yeah, I'm glad I chose it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got it, yeah.
It was adorable.
Yeah.